All right, welcome everybody to the last Ask Me Anything of 2025. And I'm so excited to have today my special guests, Liz and Nicole from ClubIchi. They recently did a 12-hour telethon, so I think they're probably still recovering. And we do have other people that should be joining, so we'll just be bringing them in as they come in. But let's start with some introductions. So Liz, would you like to go first?
Well, sure. Hello, my name is Liz, and I have my 20-year corporate background before I jumped to the supplier side as we launched an experiential agency. So then I got supplier side experience there for about 4 years. And now Nicole and I run ClubIchi, our private membership community for B2B event marketers. And we do these spontaneous think tanks in order to just find out the pulse of the market, what the challenges are, and get people together to talk.
I love it.
Nicole, I'm just going to go across the screen, so I'll say Nicole next.
Yeah, I'm Nicole. I came from the biz dev and the agency side a long time ago, but I love wild and crazy ideas, and I love to be, on the dance floor, in the rooms, that kind of thing. So I love what we're doing at ClubIchi. I love to be in text messages. So if you don't have my phone number, get it. Or I'll give it to you. And yeah, just talking to people, connecting people is super fun, and thinking of our next wild ride idea that is what we're kind of known for in the industry, which is really fun.
Yeah, you can't not have fun around Nicole and Liz, that's for sure. All right,
right.
Lenore, you're next on my screen. Would you like to go?
Sure. Hi, I'm Lenore McFerrin. I'm with Helms Briscoe for the last 3 years, and previous lifetime was a convention center event manager for 15 years. I got my master's from San Diego State in the hospitality and tourism program. So I love that community here in San Diego and am really involved. And also a member of ClubIchi, so love you guys, and went to IMAX with everyone last October. And I'm excited to be here.
Oh, Nicole put in chat she was a professor for events. I want to do that.
Oh, I mean, that makes me sound real fancy. It was their 6-week accreditation class, but it was SDSU, super fun.
I want to do that. How do I sign up to be a professor?
Yeah, I don't know. They just asked me, which I didn't get that, but here we are.
You talk to me, Trey's like, I'll get you in.
All right, Hillary, you're up next.
Yeah, Hillary Laney. I am currently Chief Revenue Officer at TPN. Historically, I mean, I've been in the industry for 20 plus years now. I started in the digital event space back in 2004. So things looked a lot different back then, but mostly worked in event technology, running a company that was historically called Digital. I bought it. It was my dad's company, and I bought it from him and changed the name to Evia, which is probably what more people know the company as today. And then we merged with TPN, a larger creative and production agency, in 2023. So next big challenge has been merging those companies and, building out all the services end to end, which has been really exciting. So
That's so awesome.
yeah,
I've known Hillary all that time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much, because I went into procurement for events at Microsoft in 2024, or excuse me, 2004.
Yeah.
It feels like yesterday and a whole lifetime ago all at once. And
amazing.
So much has happened. And well, let's go ahead and get started, and hopefully we'll have a few more people join. But Liz and Nicole, do you guys want to talk about how this process works, and then get people going?
Absolutely. So the idea of a spontaneous think tank is it's a think tank because we're here to solve problems. It's spontaneous because we don't know what problems you have. But one thing we know for sure, you have lots of problems. But the way that I think we should use this today, I've just put together a quick little mural board, and it is literally 2 big squares. The square on the left is I am a procurer, like on the brand side, and I am looking to bring people in. And the square on the right side is I am a procuree, and I want to get procured. And so because it's just this group of us, I just want us to take a few minutes and put every single challenge on either side that you can think of. So this will help feed Therez's editorial calendar, ideas, conversations, and things that she can do coming in the new year. So I think we should just take a few minutes and fill out some fun stuff. So I'm dropping in the chat a mural board. So this is how we do our digital sticky noting. When we're live and in person, we use these big 6x8 sticky notes. You should come in to the mural board as an anonymous animal of some kind. And depending on what kind of device you're on, you'll either double click to add a sticky note, or you'll hold down, I think, Control to add a sticky note. I am going to share my screen so that we can all see it, but you need to click on the link if you want to get into the actual one. So for me, if I double click, a sticky note just comes up. Some people, I think on Macs, may have to hold down a Control or some fancy Mac thing. So what I would love to do is just add some sticky notes and put in your thoughts and feelings on challenges. So for me, I'm going to cover on the procuring side, and I will put on my hat as though I am a brand trying to acquire suppliers. And then if you're on the supplier side, just go to the right side over here. Any trouble adding a sticky note?
No.
I'm not there yet.
Okay.
Okay, I keep finding myself trying to click on the shared screen instead of on my other screen.
Right, so I can stop sharing until you get in, just so I don't confuse
Yeah,
everybody.
no, it's okay. I just,
Happens all the time.
it's just me.
All right, I'll come back to the shared screen. And then on the procurer side.
That's a good one. And if you're having trouble too, you could just yell it out and I'll stick it up there for you.
That might be me in a second. I'm trying my best.
You're totally fine.
Tell me where you're
Here
stuck.
we go. Here we go. I got it. I think I'm figuring it out. It just took, I'm on a trackpad, and so it's yeah, it's just, but it's all good. I'm figuring it out.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Looking good.
Oh, it's Carla. I think we're gonna have to drop the link in again
Okay.
for the mural. Hi, Carla, welcome.
Oh. Hi.
Do you want to
Hi,
take it?
Carla.
Hello.
So
Right,
I'll give you a second to do a quick introduction of who you are and how you fit in the industry, and then we'll tee up what we're doing that you can see on the screen here.
Okay, thank you. My name is Carla Battle. I am the Director of Programs and Events at Global Business Alliance. I have a team of two. And we're a small association. We do our events for our members mostly, not so much for the outside community.
Okay. So what we've got on the board here is Liz and Nicole are with ClubIchi, and their signature process is doing a spontaneous think tank. And I think I'll just kick it over to Liz or Nicole to give a better description so that I don't miss any of the details. But there's a link in the chat that you can click on that will give you access to this mural board, and you can paste up what challenges you're facing these days in events.
Great, thank you.
Precisely. Yeah. So click on the link and it'll open up a browser for you to get in there. You'll come in as some sort of cute anonymous animal. And depending on the type of device you have, you either double click to create a sticky note, or you may have to hold down Control to create your sticky notes. And we're just adding on the left-hand side challenges that are top of mind if you are attempting to procure suppliers. On the right-hand side, if you are a supplier and you are attempting to get procured, what are the challenges that you're going through? So we've got a few up on the board here. We've got not understanding the decision-making process from the buyer side, knowing how to convey the value of what we offer within a standard template provided by the buyer. How do I get on the procurement list to even be included in an RFP? And then on the buyer side, how do I even evaluate the responses I'm getting? What if you know who you want to work with, but procurement is forcing you to do an RFP?
That never happens.
That was always a challenge I had, that like, oh, I mean, I know every 3 years we do them, but like, I really love my agency. I don't want to make people go through this crap if I know who I want to work with.
Well, there's a way around that.
This is the seed. I think these will be the great things to know.
Yeah, a couple of months ago, I did one of our Ask Me Anythings was about business reviews. And if you're doing regular business reviews with your suppliers, then a lot of times you can avoid having to do an RFP, because if you're able to demonstrate that your supplier is giving you value, and there's not really any opportunity for savings, if you will, then procurement can often give a waive on the RFP requirement. Because
Interesting.
they don't want, and that was something that I did often was, I mean, at Microsoft, there was a threshold that if it was over, I want to say $1 million, let's just say, or even $500,000, if a purchase order was at that spend level, then it had to go to procurement review. And I had this one stakeholder who he would never come to me first. It would hit the PO process would happen. And of course, as we all know, everything's like very last minute in events. And he was always freaking out. And I finally said, Ed, will you please call me on the next one? And he finally did. And before he submitted the PO, and I went through the scope of work, and I'm like, looks good to me, stamp. And so when, in his purchase order, when he entered it, he was like, and there was a question, has this been reviewed by procurement? And he was able to check yes and put my name on it. And his PO went through in like 2 days instead of 10.
Yeah. See, make friends with your procurement people.
Yeah. The problem is, though, I think, as probably everybody here on the call recognizes, is not everybody in procurement really understands events. So, Carla,
Yeah, it's true.
Do you have a procurement team, Carla, that you have to work with?
I do not. I actually am lucky. I don't really have to answer to anybody.
Best answer ever.
Yeah, that's good. All right. These are some good these are some really good questions. Let's look back over on the
Oh, difficult or impossible to build a relationship with procurement. That's a good one.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be so much fun.
Yes. Oh boy. Okay, let's give us, since Carla just joined us recently, let's give like 2 more minutes to add a few more here. Oh, receiving proposals from properties who can't possibly do my event. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, these are really good. And how about?
Yeah, I think I have my
get on
content
the
calendar
list?
for the whole year done. Oh Lordy.
How do I get on the list is like, that's the ultimate question.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, yeah. The the real cost or buffer, Liz, wasn't that kind of one of the topics on the you were on a panel about a week ago? It was
Yeah,
like
with
right before
Gianna
the
and the,
telethon. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh God, who's typing that one?
Who's me?
You? Yeah, that's
I mean, how many RFPs have we all seen where it was like, there's no budget here, just tell us what you think it's gonna cost?
yeah, and that's something that a lot of procurement teams also miss on, because they're like, well, if we tell them the budget, then they're just going to bid to the budget. But I mean, as we all know, you can have 1,000-person attendee event and a keynote, and that keynote can cost anywhere from $500,000 to $2.5 million or more, depending on what your production value is going to be, what all the staging and lighting, and Hillary can talk to that part pretty deeply, I think, given where she's at these days. So if you don't give at least a framework, then you're going to end up with proposals that are from here to there, and then you've got to come to some kind of sense of what the only time I would say that maybe not including too deep of a budget is if your scope of work is solid.
Mhm.
But then if your scope of work is that solid, then why are you doing an RFP? Because you've got you're probably working from your supplier's scope of work that you're currently working with.
Yeah.
So Hillary, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's a challenge. And I actually made a note in there about the amount of resources that need to be put towards that effort, and knowing on the other end that, especially if there's an incumbent supplier and they're basically just price checking, that makes it really difficult as the supplier to be putting all that effort towards it. Um, yeah, I mean, I understand the conundrum though, because, I get that notion on the client side of, providing too much information. It's a difficult dynamic on both sides. It's not easy for either group. Because, on the other side of it, I mean, we do that all the time at TPN. We've got a ton of vendors that work under us when we produce the keynotes, and same kind of thing. We have to put request out there, and part of doing that is finding out what's available, and you don't always want to give away that information, tell too much of the story, because otherwise you're not going to learn from the process, which I think is part of what is valuable for the client to go through that.
Yeah. So Liz, guide us through. Do
Mhm.
we pick a couple of these and
Yep, that's exactly. So normally, when we have a large crowd, we would do either peer-to-peer, where we would have people who are experts in and have answers in, and then we put people in small groups. When we have our facilitated conversations like this, then what we love to do is go in and pick a few and have, you, Therese, as the expert, kind of guide us through, since it is your AMA, and then other folks can pitch in and contribute to those. So I think I would love to run a little voting session so that we can see from all of us here, what are the top 3 that you would love to talk about? So I'm going to set a voting session. I'm going to do a start voting session. I'm going to let any member vote up to 3 topics that you'd like to talk about. Ready, set, go. All you're going to do is click the card once to vote on it. If you decide you want to change your vote, you can click it again to unvote. So using your browser, not my screen share, we'll unscreen share so that you can go in and vote on your own.
Love it. Oh man, these are hard.
Yeah. Sure.
Why have the 0 votes? Okay.
All right, I have 0 votes left. How are y'all doing?
Yep.
2.
Visiting snail has 2 votes left.
Fine.
Visiting crab has 2 votes left. Visiting seahorse has 1 vote left.
That's me. I thought that was so cute that I got visiting seahorse.
I love their anonymous animals. And then like if you have too many people on, they start just making up animals, which is so great. Whatever random cryptid, like you're visiting Sasquatch.
Yes.
All right, 1 vote left. There we go. Okay,
Okay.
end voting session. And now I can share the top ones that we shall talk about. Number 1, why are all RFPs just spreadsheets? Isn't there a better way? Number 2, when you're working with someone who doesn't seem excited about your business. Ooh, I'd love to know more about that.
Oh,
And then we have some ties and these that have some individual votes. So let's start with this one. So all the RFPs that I've ever sent or received have been a spreadsheet. That's how I feel. Spreadsheet template.
That was Freudian, wasn't it?
How do you normally do them, Therese?
Well, yes, we don't love the spreadsheets. But the reason for it is,
Sanity.
well, it's kind of, I mean, from an evaluation perspective, now there's a couple ways. There are tools like Ariba and Coupa, and I'm drawing a blank on the other one where, they just electronically send an RFP and you're actually in an online tool where you're typing in all your stuff. But most of the time that gets transposed into a spreadsheet so that there's a column for each respondent. And then the evaluators, so you've got the question on the left and then a column for each of the respondents. And then you judge each question across the board. So that way you're easily able to see what the question was and what each of the responses was and how they compare to one another. So
Yeah.
it's an easier way for the evaluators to compare the answers. And and then sometimes they do use a spreadsheet.
You're gonna say it from now on. You're welcome.
I know it is. It's going to be every time I say spreadsheet, that's going to be in my head. So when they send it out in a spreadsheet, it's because they're not using one of those electronic tools, but they still want the ability to put the answers side by side. Now you could do it in Word, I suppose, too. Use a table in Word and combine it somehow.
When you do those though, quick question, because I know like I don't think you can word count in Excel, because like when I'm looking at them, it's like all the crap. And so you have to ask people to do a certain word count and hopefully they're doing it in Word and dropping it in. But like even just the comparison it's not possible.
Well, okay. And so you did touch on something that I give people advice on, and that is if you have to respond in Excel, put your answers in Word or, Google Docs or whatever, get your word or character count, get your grammar and spell check and all of that stuff. And then stop it, Nicole. and then paste it into Excel, because then you're not going to exceed the count. And sometimes they'll even put a block so that they limit the characters to a certain amount. Now, that's one of the downsides to Excel, because I think there is within Excel a defined character count that each cell can't go beyond. So what I also tell people is, answer the question where they ask it, no matter what. Even if you think they've already asked it someplace up above, stick with what is being asked. I also say that if you think you've already answered the question, go back and read it again, because there's often a nuance that maybe you missed. But if you've got more information. And if it's allowed, you can give a brief answer in the cell and then refer to an appendix. And if you do that, and Hillary's shaking her head, if you do that, be specific. More information in Appendix A, page 2. Or Appendix A is the more information, so they don't have to go hunting around trying to figure out where is your expanded answer.
Is there a best practice on the procurer side to say, put your extra stuff in this folder, or do you tell the suppliers, put it in a folder and send us the link?
It can go either way. I mean, you could set up a SharePoint or a Dropbox or something like that, or you can just allow them to attach documents. And then obviously if it's allowed, do your regular proposal. So answer, and a lot of times procurement will ask, I mean, and I tell them, you really shouldn't be asking more than about 20 questions, and that's even a lot. And those are more the operational kinds of things. And then usually there's an actual proposal where because you can't put renderings for a production schematic or a creative design, or in Carla's case a floor plan, or how the room set's going to be, that can't go into Excel. So you have to, procurement should allow for a supplemental proposal to do it. And so in that case, what happens is you go through and the reviewers will go through and they'll score. I try to encourage people to not do an odd number. So instead of 1 through 5, because then it's easy to get a 3, right? So if you do 6 or 4, then there's no middle. And so it kind of forces the needle.
Well, that's a good piece of advice.
Yeah. And I learned that the hard way, and don't go 1 through 10, because the granularity between an 8 and a 9 and a 10 is like me. So, and then of course you also want to put criteria around what is a 4, which is a spectacular answer, and what is a 1 or even a 0, and why you would give that kind of score. And that's makes it more helpful in kind of separating the good ones from the not as good. So that's the reason behind spreadsheets. And it's I think it's probably here to stay for at least a little while longer. Carla, I think I want to make sure you get included in this conversation. When you get a report for, venue availability, doesn't that usually come through in some kind of a spreadsheet? You're on mute. Okay, she might have stepped away, but Hillary raised her hand.
Yeah, I just had a question because I, of the RFPs that we've done, I've been with TPN for the past couple of years. When I was just EVIA on the digital side, there weren't a lot of visuals that went with that. So RFPs that we've submitted, being in a spreadsheet was actually fine for us, because so much of it was technical and specs that we could just, lay out.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the production world, and we sell creative as well. I would say of the RFPs we've done in the last couple of years, like 9 out of 10 of them are spreadsheet only. Like there's no availability for us to present a deck or any materials or examples.
It's so frustrating.
It's so frustrating. And so then on our side, I'm just thinking they're only looking at cost. Like this is just a cost comparison, which is also painful, because it's, to your point earlier about the keynote price and stuff, there's so much variety in there. In a standard proposal scenario, we offer a good, better, best scenario to our customers. So if it's not a formal RFP, and they really appreciate that, because then they can kind of see, okay, for the amount of money I'm spending, here's what's possible, especially when you're talking about like exhibitor booths and things. So I don't know. I just want to know what your thoughts are. If a client is coming to us with a formal RFP, and there's probably no black and white answer to this, but if there's no ability to really demonstrate that value, and it really is about just putting in numbers and that stuff in a spreadsheet. Do you think that their intention really truly is to cost compare and that they're less concerned about choosing a different vendor, but more just, we just want the right price is what they're looking for? Like, would you assume that? Or how, because how do they, otherwise, how are they judging? How are they making that decision on the value side if it can't really be demonstrated?
Well, yeah, that's like define pretty.
Right, right.
I mean, what floats your boat is maybe not going to be all that appealing to me or anybody else. And so I mean, I kind of feel like when those scenarios come up, it's where either procurement or the client doesn't fully understand how the RFP process should work for events, because we're not buying airplane parts. And so a direct cost comparison isn't necessarily going to give you what you need. And Hillary, you've heard me say this 100 times. If you save 10% on a $10 million budget, right? You think you've saved $1 million, but if the event doesn't land and the objective doesn't get met, then you really didn't save $1 million. You wasted $10 million.
Yep.
So in a situation like that, I mean, that's where you need to kind of dig deep and decide if that's an opportunity you want to pursue, because if you're not going to, to your point earlier, it takes a ton of resources to respond to an RFP. You've got all this research you have to do, it's hours and hours and hours and hours. And, if all they're doing is a cost comparison, then the value portion of your business is harder to demonstrate. So, unless it's like a big brand that you can't afford to pass on, you might consider just giving it a pass. So, Carla put that she couldn't navigate from the stickies to your microphone. So do you want to chime in on the spreadsheets, Carla, at this point?
Yeah, so when I send out an RFP, I normally send a Word form, but then I attach a spreadsheet. So it's not really all spreadsheet. Mostly my spreadsheet is backup information.
Okay.
Like I might include where, for instance, if I'm sending an RFP for an event at a hotel, I might include a spreadsheet that has my properties for the past 5 years, the rate that I paid, the sleeping room rate I paid, and sort of those kinds of details, which I hope is helpful to the person or the properties that I'm sending to.
Okay, so you actually give the respondents information about your history and what you paid for prior events.
Yes, I do.
I can see that because, I mean, it gives them, obviously it demonstrates history, and it probably gives them a sense of what your budget's going to look like and what
Exactly.
your expectations are. Yeah.
Exactly.
And Lenore put spreadsheets for me, they're just a starting point for further conversation. And yeah, and I think that's, we're humans. We have to talk to one another, and you can only collect so much information in black and white, or possibly even in color if they allow it. But eventually you have to start having conversations. And, one thing I'll say is, and I know we want to probably move on to the next one here in just a minute, but, if you're in an RFP situation, or if you're running an RFP, it's so important to have a Q&A period. At least a written Q&A.
On that, when someone sends, is the best practice when someone sends a question that everyone gets the answer, or is it only for the person who asked it?
No, my feeling is everybody gets the answers, because, and even when I would talk to suppliers about this, and in fact, when I was at Microsoft, we put together kind of a spec sheet for all of the information that a logistics agency or a registration agency would need to complete an RFP completely. And we asked all of our suppliers to collaborate on that. And at first they were like, well, I don't want to give up my stuff. I don't want to give up my stuff. And I was like, well, here, folks, probably 90% of this stuff is going to overlap. And the 10%, if you give a nugget that nobody else thought of, you're probably going to get a nugget that you never thought of. And they're like, yeah, you're right. So everybody, put their stuff in, and sure enough, it was pretty much a lot of overlap. And so the same goes for an RFP, where if somebody asks a clarifying question, and a lot of times you'll find that the questions are very similar, which the RFP manager should take note of because that was something they weren't clear on and they should improve that for the next time. But you answer all of the questions and everybody gets all the answers. And then if there's, I would say if there's a substantial number of questions, then you should offer a bidder's call. And if you're the supplier, if there's a bidder's call, you want to be on it, and you probably want to have, if they'll allow it, you want to have at least 2 people, because one person might hear something that the other one didn't, and so you've just got more eyes and ears on the topic. So, a good RFP, I mean, the timeline should be reasonable, and that was one of the questions I saw. For God's sake, don't issue it today and have it due back on January 2nd. I mean, that's just wrong on almost every level. So give adequate time to read the RFP, ask the questions, get the questions answered, digest the answers to the questions, and then submit the RFP. And minimum on something like that should be not necessarily hotels, because that's a little faster pace. But I would say a minimum project timeline for like $1 million RFP should be at least a month.
Okay.
It should be at least a month, because when you think about, everybody's busy. And so people aren't just sitting around like the Maytag repairman waiting for somebody to show up. So the suppliers have to have some time to pull in their teams
But you and I all know that the bunch of RFPs are going to be sent out this Friday with.
Oh, I know it. I'm on a few procurement boards on LinkedIn, and everybody, all the real procurement pros are going, for the love of God, do not. But it'll happen. It'll happen. And all I can say to anybody out there listening, if that happens to you and you need help, I'm available to help.
Okay, so our next question here, I'd love to get some insight on what this one means. When you're working with someone who doesn't seem excited about your business. So is that from a supplier side or from the business trying to get a supplier who doesn't care about you?
Who wants to fess up on
Put
that
one in?
Oh, it was mine.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, from the procurement side, so I usually call it procurement or not, but when I'm helping a client find a hotel, and then they choose a hotel, and then the hotel's kind of like, we're not really going to play, we're not really going to give you anything that you want, but then the client really wants it. And I think that there's probably similar scenarios for, procurement has decided you're going to work with this person, but maybe the manager doesn't want to, or, there's always kind of these forced relationships based on different things. And then how do you work to actually find a common ground and a relationship that actually works?
Hotels are the worst culprits in that, because especially like we had one in Baltimore. I think in the time that we went to the RFP, signed the contract, and executed the event, it went through 3 general managers and 3 different sales directors that, like, by the end, we couldn't even reconcile the rooming list because nobody knew what our program was. It was so frustrating. They clearly didn't care about the client in any step of the way. It was so horrible.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, on our side, there's a lot of times where it's like, I kind of counsel clients to really try and choose partners that are excited to work with you. And I think, talking about the RFP process, it's evident, especially, when a sales manager kind of cuts and pastes and drops a bunch of stuff in and only gives you half answers, that they're not that interested in working with you. Yeah. And I think that that's really one of the important things that you can see out of a spreadsheet. For example, if they're half answering all of the questions, like, to me, that's giving more of the vibe than it is, I'm collecting the details and the numbers, but the vibe is, okay, we're only going to put half amount of energy into this because we don't really think that either it's a good relationship or you're good business, or like there's always these undertones to what's being said when you're filling things out that I think speaks louder than the actual numbers.
So Lenore, when you send an RFP, how many hotels do you typically include?
I mean, our ideal number is like 7. But often it's less than that, depending on the location that the client is going for and when you already know their preferences. And sometimes it's more. I mean, if you're going for multiple cities, then I'll go above that because you try and get a couple. I mean, ultimately, I'm looking for at least 3 good options in each city. So it really depends on the client and what kind of piece of business it is, if people are excited about it or not.
Okay, so you're maybe sending one RFP for a program, but you could be including Baltimore and uh, Cleveland and Fort Lauderdale. And so for each of, and so do you, I mean, if 7's a lot, I'll just say. And if a hotel knows that they're one of 7, then they've only got, I can't do the math in my head fast enough, but they've got about a 12% chance of winning the business.
Well, yes and no. I mean, if you've got 7 and you're looking at availability for in the next 12 months, half of them may not even have availability. So once you take the 7, you say you've got 3 don't have any availability. Now you've only got 4 that are actually pushing. So now you've got 25% chance of the business. So it's not just that anybody responding, you're trying to actually get people with availability in a range that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah, 7 is usually kind of the max number that they say. And I think it ranges according to the program.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I mean, one of the things I keep in contact with all my hotel peeps, and the thing they say is, hit send on the RFP and then pick up the phone and call them and say, this is a legit RFP, because there's so many people who do spray and pray. And so and there are some sourcing teams that will actually send out phantom programs just to get a pulse of the market. I mean, what are the room rates? What could I get? And it's not even a real program. So,
That seems unethical. That's crazy.
Agreed.
I would never do it. And if I had a client who tried to do that, I would advise them strongly against it. And then I probably wouldn't be their provider anymore because it is unethical. But yeah, so that's the battle you're facing.
And also, I feel like there's a difference between an RFI and an RFP. So in that instance, it's an RFI. I don't have a program. I'd love to know where we're at, and sending that out totally different than all the work you have to do for a program RFP.
Right. Exactly. Did that help?
Yeah, for sure.
I think sometimes, not necessarily on the hotel side, but and I'd be curious to hear from Liz and Nicole and Hillary on this, when if you're trying to work with a client who doesn't seem to be all that thrilled about who you are and what you're doing, have you ever faced that yourselves?
I mean, I think that, like you're saying, Lenore, and when you can tell that it's actually going to be an uphill battle to work with that supplier, then you can let the client know, like, we can totally pick this. I know your executives want it. I want you to know this is going to be a struggle. You're not going to get the amenities you want. They're not going to answer the phone when you call. And so it's a matter of, do you want to fight for your own health and well-being and mental health and dealing with them? Or are we doing that because that's where the execs want to go? In which case, steel yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Nicole, you hurt my heart. Actually,
no,
that's
sometimes
true.
when we're saying like, how do you get them to pay attention or do whatever? Like sometimes it's just monotonous because like it can't be fun to just look, at all that stuff all day. So it's like, how do you stand out? Well, like that is an opportunity. Make their day awesome, that kind of thing. So sometimes, but you are not boring. But sometimes, like I've met a procurement person that's like, ooh. Living in the basement. Okay, I'm just gonna go with that.
I'll say those are the ones who don't understand the industry, because how can you not?
They get into procurement because they were given a job to do stuff. They didn't get into procurement because they like the thrill of the chase.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of how I ended up in procurement. I was hired originally at Microsoft to implement a reporting system for procurement. And my chief stakeholder was the director of marketing procurement. Do you remember John Stevens, Hillary?
Yeah.
And there was a category manager for events that opened up, and he's like, "Hey, what do you think?" And I was like, "That sounds like fun." And got the job and here we are. So
That's awesome.
but I wouldn't have been in procurement if it weren't for events. I'll just say
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so the next question I have for you is on these tools, and this is just my personal question, but since it ranked the same as all the other ones, I want to ask this. So especially because in my position, I've been talking to a lot of event tech suppliers that have these tools. So I know that especially on the hotel and venue sourcing side, Cvent has a tool. The new Debbie Garcia just launched Versatour, which has a tool. Hopskip is there's all of these tools that we as planners can go in and send an RFP out. But now all of these suppliers are having to pay to be in all of these tools, and then they're all different as to what information they're sending and showing. How, from the supplier side, should you decide where you show up? And when do you try them or play with them or not do them at all and just work with like third-party people like at Helms Briscoe that's going to come to you? How do you even navigate that world? It seems so complicated.
I don't know if we have the right people on the call. There was actually a hotelier who had registered and she didn't join. I think a lot of them are free to be listed. Like in Cvent, I believe any hotel. I mean, they want as many hotels in there as they can get. I think it's free to be listed, but if you want, you know, like your property picture and a couple of pictures of your rooms and, you know, those kinds of things, then you do have to pay some kind of a subscription fee.
Well, because, and I'm coming from Nicole and I are part of the investor team in a music venue. And I know when they were really starting to do, like try to get notoriety out there, and they were in the Knot and they were in the Cvent and Peer Space and all of these things, then when the requests came in, they're coming in through 4 different tools, and the chick would miss them sometimes because some come in a different way than the others, and some go to a junk folder instead of the main one. And so her leadership was getting really pissed at her that she wasn't answering all the RFPs, and she's like, I cannot keep up with this many tools that people can submit to me through. And so we had to streamline and just make that decision that we're not going to be in this, this, and this. If they want to find us, we're listed here, but you can't submit an RFP to us through here, just so that it was manageable. And so I just didn't know from a procurement side if you had talked to people about it or experienced that, because it must be frustrating for the venues.
Yeah, and again, I wish our hotelier had joined, because she would probably have some things to say about that. But you know, I mean, I get approached periodically about, well, you should be in this directory and this and that and the other thing, and I was like, no, I'm not, because nobody's going to go to a directory to find someone to help them find who they need for their events.
That's where the boring people are, is in the directories. So
Yeah.
see,
Yeah, and you know, it's like, I'm not doing it, and they're like, but, and you know, and so I was like, I need to know about your directory or your whatever this is, so that I can go look at it if I need to, but nobody's gonna go in there to find me and hire me. So that's been kind of one of the short-ish conversations that I have with salespeople from those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
Lenore, were you?
Yeah, I was gonna say, so a lot of on the hotel side, a lot of them have their own internal systems and they integrate with all these different softwares.
Oh, that's good to know.
And I don't know what they're called because I'm not on, within the hotel, but usually like our Cvent lead feeds into their lead, and then they fill it out, and then it comes back through Cvent. So they're all integrated with each other so that they're just working with one system. But on my side, that can be frustrating because I include pieces of information in Cvent and it doesn't always translate. And so
interesting.
I'm thinking I'm including all the information that's needed, and I have, but if it doesn't feed into their system correctly, it doesn't matter. And so understanding how it translates between those 2 systems helps, or you just put pertinent information in multiple locations in hopes that one of those spots will actually show up within our system. Like some of the messaging through Cvent, like I'll send a message with an RFP, like, oh, contact me with questions or whatever. And then it gets sent to one person and then transferred and assigned to someone else. And by the time it gets to the person actually responding, the information that I sent is no longer visible.
So my next question here, just in the last 5 minutes, I would love to understand, well, to talk about this one, that not understanding the decision-making process on the buyer side. Is there a point in your response where you can get that information before you even respond? Like, you know,
mean
I
like
mean, it's like, we're gonna turn the, if they didn't give you a full timeline that tells you when we're gonna review, when they're gonna do all that stuff and it's not included, can you ask that? Is that like too forward to be like, once we submit, what the hell is gonna happen?
Yeah, that's, well, it should be there. So, a good RFP talks about, you know, what the weighting is.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the budget might have 10% weight because, you know, I always, whenever I ran an RFP, I didn't even give the scorers their, the budget. Because I would look at them and make sure that they were kind of in line, you know, and if they weren't, then I'm like, okay, somebody misread the assumptions, or, you know, and I would reach out and clarify on that. But my feeling is we can always negotiate the budget if we have to. Let's make sure we're getting the right services.
Right.
But we would give, you know, your team is 25% of your score. Your approach to managing the project is 25% of your score. Your, you know, corporate history is, usually I wouldn't even score that because that's just a factoid, you know, but you would give what the weight for each of the sections is, you know, based on what your importance in you know, and understanding that, and you know, and the creativity of the solution was usually 30 or 40%. Because that's the meat of it, right?
Right. And what if you get an RP that's not weighted? Should you like, do you know that they're not qualifiably?
I just wish I could run all the RFPs for the events industry because then we know that they would be done well. But and I'm sorry, that just sounded a little arrogant, but I've heard so many frustrations. You know, that would be something that you could ask in the clarifying questions. And you know, and when I'm talking to suppliers, you know, the red flags I give them are, you know, there's not enough information, they're not willing to answer your questions, you don't have a reasonable timeline to respond, you know, and if you happen to be a women-owned or minority-owned business or some other disadvantaged enterprise, sometimes you're the check the box to meet the policy requirement to include those groups.
Okay.
So I'm kind of looking over here at the mural board, and it looks like I think we've answered some of these just in the conversation, you know, like the reasonable time to respond. And
yeah, so I'm going to download this as a PDF for you. So you've got all these sticky notes and you can go do fun things with them in 2025. Thank you so much for having us here today.
Absolutely. And then I think we can give the participants the sticky, can we give them? Well,
yeah, oh, well, from us, for 100%. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Well, this is a wrap on 2024. It's so hard to believe. And I'm disappointed we didn't have more people, and I can just understand because it's the holidays, but I'm so grateful.
Don't be disappointed. The people here are amazing. This is a great group.
Well, I was about to say that as I'm excited about the people that we did have on here, and I'm excited to stay in touch and hear what's happening for 2025. And with that, thank you all. Woo -woo.
All right. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Bye, everyone.
Yes, love you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.